What's good, everybody? It's your boy D Nice with I2G Hip Hop, back at it with another review. This is a special one for me, just as a connoisseur of hip hop, listening to the Dogg Pound. Back in high school, remember when, or just getting out of high school, going into college, listening to Dog Food. I wouldn't say it's a certified classic hip hop record, but definitely a West Coast classic, and one that I consider a personal classic. So, Dogg Pound is back. They dropped Memorial Day weekend. We All We Got, or AKA WAG. First album on newly owned by Snoop Dogg Death Row Records since 1995. And just here to do a quick review of it. First and foremost, one of the first things I always notice being old school and looking at albums is the production, and I was kind of surprised with this album that Daz didn't do any beats on this particular album. So I was very intrigued how the overall sound of the album would be, and was definitely pleasantly surprised. Rick Rock did Smoke Up. We All We Got was done by Jelly Roll. I thought that was a Battle Cat beat, but incredible production on both of those tracks. Has a very modern West Coast sound, kind of has a little Bay Area twist to it, but definitely stays in the vein musically of a West Coast album. Secondly, first and foremost, this also gave me the feel of their 2006 album, Cali is Active, because of how much and prominent Snoop Dogg was on this album. Some people, true Dogg Pound fans, previously have said, Snoop is a little too involved in the projects. I personally, anything DPGC, Superfly said it in a line, said individually we the shit, but collectively we can't be fucked with. And anytime all of them from the DPGC collaborate on projects as a group or individual projects, whether it's just verses or production, it's definitely appreciated and really enhances the overall sound. So Snoop kind of played as in 95, and I'm going to do a lot of references kind of back and forth, because this album gave me a nostalgic sound. Snoop kind of played that Dr. Dre role. I could kind of feel it on that. Also, where Nate Dogg would do a lot of hooks and things on Dogg Pound tracks. Snoop did a lot of hooks on here, but also dropped a lot of quality verses. Just right off the top, Favorite Color Blue, love that track by Rick Rock, great beat. Inside of Her, another good beat. Butch Cassidy, I was also happy to see on 3 or 4 tracks here on the project as well. Really, again, gives it that cohesive sound. But this also reminded me also of another album, ironically, kind of in the same vein, when 213 dropped 3 the Hard Way quite a few years back. Also, no Warren G production, but it has Snoop, Nate, Warren G, all on there with the rhymes, and many different people, predominantly Battle Cat, did a lot of the production on that project as well. This album as well, I feel like it allowed Daz and Corrupt kind of to just focus just on the music, focus on things lyrically. Now, lyrically, is this on par or better than Dog Food? No, it is not, and that's okay that it's not. This album is almost 30 years. These two albums are 30 years in between each other. It was just really good and refreshing to hear Dogg Pound back in the studio and dropping a project. There's still to this day dozens upon hundreds of unreleased Dogg Pound songs. They'll leak here and there, but it was great to hear something new, 2024, all new material. And I like how both Daz and Corrupt kind of slowed down their flows. Really took the track. It was kind of simplistic rhymes on some of it, not quite as structured or just lyrical, just destruction as Corrupt did on Dog Food. But there's still some quotables on this album. I love Grown Up. Mike and Keys did a lot of great production on this album as well. Need Some Space, I like that production as well. There's really not a track on here musically that I'm sitting back and I'm like, okay, this beat was just completely terrible, don't really like it. It's a great summertime album to kind of kick back and listen to in the ride. The Weekend, great production by Superfly. I was happy to see Superfly on it. October London, also on the vocals, and Jay Hancock also as well. Really enjoyed that track. Always on My Mind, another dope track by Mike and Keys, which leads me to my finale, Who the Hardest. And I will try not to get too long-winded on that, but definitely was hyped to see this track. The video, the visualizer for it before the actual video that dropped a couple of days ago, produced by DJ Premier, and it had Snoop, Daz, Corrupt, RBX, and who kicked off the track, Lady of Rage. Let me just tell you, anytime you hear Lady of Rage on a track, and it's the intro, and she goes, "Hey!" you know you're about to get some bars, and she did not disappoint again on this track. Quotables left and right, just completely just murdered and destroyed the track. I call this track personally the 2024 Stranded on Death Row, and this kind of what really kind of made me a fan of Dogg Pound back in the 90s, was their ability really as a West Coast crew and group with Death Row, and even individually as DPGC, to do posse cuts. Not to say that there's not posse cuts on the West Coast, but that's kind of more of an East Coast thing. Dogg Pound came in really with the the whole G-Funk era, but I had a homeboy of mine, Chris Conforti, that passed away. He was from New York, and he was always, who's the best, MCs back in when we listened to music, and I put him on to Dogg Pound. I always felt Corrupt kind of had, his rhyme structure was kind of the East Coast, but he was so West Coast with his just swag and demeanor and delivery, really kind of a birth of the best of both coasts, and with Daz, also with the production, and also lyrically as well. But this track really reminded me of a Death Row, Stranded on Death Row of a Chronic. A lot of people have said the beat from Premier was not the greatest in the world, and I would agree with that. It's very simplistic, but a lot of Primo's beats are very simplistic. And for a track like this, where you've got 5 MCs on it, you want very simplistic. You don't want the beat to kind of overtake the MCs that are rapping on it, and Premier executed that to perfection. Loved the scratches and the cuts for each of the individual artists. Second was Corrupt. Corrupt killed it. Used a lot of big metaphors and words in there that I had to almost kind of go back and almost, if you're listening to like Cannabis, a lot of big words and wordplay, but it matched perfectly with this track. And I've always noticed with DPGC posse cuts, if Rage is on it, or you can take any kind of grouping of whether it's Technique or Trey D or whoever, like the Blueberry song on the Dogfather soundtrack, represent that DPGC that was on Corrupt Streets as a Mother. All the MCs, you can tell, really kind of feed off of each other, and would love to sit down with any of those artists and talk about back in the day, those creating those tracks, and almost feels like a battle type of environment, which all of these guys came up through back in the 90s. But enjoyed Corrupt's verse. Really enjoyed RBX's verse. It was great to hear from him. Mr. No prevention from this lynching of sorts. You're a victim from my drive-by of thoughts. Always, that was one of my illest lines. That really what got me into RBX back in the day when first listening to the Chronic. But it was awesome hearing him back on the track. Definitely brought that flavor and brought that toughness to the track as well. Daz, kind of I wouldn't say it was a bad verse, but rhyme pattern, everything that he had with it was in pocket and on point. And Snoop closed it out, had some quick, witty lines, but just really enjoyed this track. Definitely, in the last now 3 decades, we've only had one Lady of Rage album, so I see a lot of people in comments talking about, man, when are we gonna get a Rage album? When are we gonna get a Rage album? hopefully we can get something from her from that. But it was a great outro to a really, really consistent album. Again, Dogg Pound has promised and put out a lot of material about tracks and albums that they were going to do with people. They broke up, got back together like any other group or relationship or anything like that, but was definitely happy to see his kind of a full circle album coming back 2024 on Death Row Records and dropping this project. I definitely enjoy it. I would say out of 5 stars, I would give it a solid 3.5, 4. Just listening to it now about 4 or 5 times and listening to it for the future. Definitely looking forward to projects like this. I know a lot of people say, you know, the OGs, why are they making music anymore, different things like that. As long as you're making quality music, you could see it from Nas, you can see it from Scarface, Snoop as well. As long as you're putting out quality material and quality music. Again, is this dog food? No, that was 29 years ago. Just like if Snoop drops an album tomorrow, is it going to be Doggy Style? No. Doggy Style was 1993, completely produced by Dr. Dre, and Snoop hasn't had an album kind of structured or like that in a long time. But what I do like and kind of think of is the X factor, and I'm looking forward to more projects from Death Row, is Snoop knows that kind of authentic sound and structure that this crew has always been known for the last 3 decades, and I like how he incorporated that into this album for the Dogg Pound. I would love to see that if there's an Eastsiders album that comes out as well. Hopefully that's through Snoop as well, and any other projects, Lady of Rage as well. You know, if you get an executive produced DJ Premier album by Lady of Rage, I don't think anyone would be too upset about that. Get some production also by Daz. I know she's picky with beats, but I would definitely love to hear a mixtape or a full-length project. But again, I would give this 3.5, 4 out of 5 currently right now. Definitely listen to it, but like I said, not a lot of skips. There's really not a lot of I would say Who the Hardest is definitely the best song on the album, but the rest of the album, it flows well, it's sequenced well, it's mixed and mastered great, the production is good, and it's a great summertime album that you can ride out to. So, site www.illuminati2g.com, currently under construction. We are also making some transitions with the podcast, so stay tuned with that. But just wanted to drop this review of the Dogg Pound album, We All We Got. Definitely check it out. Urge everyone to pick it up, and definitely looking forward to whatever else is coming from Death Row Records and Snoop here in 2024. With that, D Nice, I2G Hip Hop signing off. Oh, also quickly on X, aka Twitter, at Illuminati2G, the word Illuminati, the number 2, the letter G. Check us out there. We will be posting this link on here. And also on YouTube, it is at I2G Hip Hop. The letter I, the number 2, the letter G, Hip Hop, all one word. D Nice signing off. Dogg Pound, We All We Got, 4 out of 5. Classic summertime album, possibly. We'll see over time, but so far so good in the comeback from the Dogg Pound for 2024. Peace.